my little. I always have to give a little toast to my husband. Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Thirsty Professional. This is where we grab a bevy, we ditch the BS, and we get real about careers, purpose, and passion. I'm your host, Beth Ann Campbell. I'm a former corporate queen who traded in her crown for a pen and a microphone. I'm also author of the award-winning Where the Hell is My Bacon?, which is available for all of you corporate rebels on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. Happy Mother's Day this weekend in the United States to all the moms out there. If you are out there watching live, please let us know you're here in the comments, where you're from, and most importantly, what are you drinking? If you're watching the replay, please give us a hashtag replay. And of course, make sure to let us know if you have any questions or feedback so we can address it during the live stream. All right. Today, my very, very, very special guest on The Thirsty Professional, who is also color coordinated with me today, is the writing king and ghostwriting guru, Richard Lowe Jr. Richard is a best-selling ghostwriter who helps professionals turn their expertise into powerful books that build credibility, attract opportunities, and leave a lasting legacy, which is the power of books. He's written or ghostwritten over 100 books and 1,000 plus articles. He's a trusted authority in business, technology, and leadership writing. In his former life, he spent 33 years in corporate in tech, so I'm sure we can share some horror stories, including director of computer operations at Trader Joe's and a VP at 2 tech firms. Wow. Richard blends his rich corporate insight with storytelling mastery. His notable works include Focus on LinkedIn, which is an Amazon bestseller, Cyber Heist, and Digitize or Die. And believe me, there are some very creative and diverse other titles in that mix. He is also a belly dancer, photographer, and author. We're going to talk about that. Please help me welcome Richard Lowe Jr. Richard, welcome to The Thirsty Professional. Cheers.
Well, thanks for that awesome introduction. I have my own beverage, water.
Awesome. What are you drinking today? Water?
Just water.
I love it when my guests are drinking water because it's so healthy.
Yes.
I usually have a water, but I do not today.
I am a no caffeine, no soda person.
I love that. Yeah, I'm a coffee person, and I get the expensive coffee too. So I'm not even like
Of course.
Yeah. And then I get the expensive coffee. I open my coffee. So today my bag of coffee beans, because I do freshly grind. But you're a Trader Joe's veteran, so you should understand the importance of snobby coffee and stuff like that.
Of course.
But I opened my coffee today that I get from a place near Roanoke, Virginia. It's called Red Rooster Coffee. It's just amazing. They source it from small farms around the world. And today it was from Kenya, and it smelled so freaking amazing. And then what do? I put hot cocoa and sweetener and all kinds of crap in it to cover up the flavor. So it's kind of sacrilegious, I think, a little bit.
Okay.
So anyway, water, great, awesome. Let's see. I wanted to ask you, so you're in Clearwater, Florida, which is near Tampa.
Yes.
On the west.
That's where I'm at.
Awesome. If I'm going to Clearwater, where would you say you have to go eat at this place? What's a good place to go?
There's it's called I forget it. It's in Safety Harbor. It's just next door to Clearwater, and they have a spa there. A big hotel. It's an old hotel, and there's a spa in it, and it has a restaurant that's really, really good. It's expensive, but it's really, really good.
Okay.
And then there's a place right across the street from it that is a fish place, and that is awesome.
Nice. I'll bet you get really good fish when you're near the ocean, right? Versus us inlanders.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm not even far. I'm 3 hours from not even 3 hours. So
the disadvantage of living in Clearwater was last year in October, I got a direct hit from the hurricane, Milton, I think it was. Almost a Cat 5, within a squeak, a couple miles an hour would have been a Cat 5, right literally on top of me.
I was going to ask you about that but I feel it's a little cliche to ask every person who lives in or near Florida about hurricanes, but hurricanes and alligators are the two reasons that are, other things too, but hurricane, in fact, I was watching a video the other day of an alligator that was two of them, one of them, and I don't know if it was in Florida. I'm just, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but it could happen if it's an alligator. And they were actually like trying to climb on top of somebody's front door and get in.
Alligators are vicious. In fact, after the hurricane, there were two alligators on my porch and a bobcat in the tree.
Oh, fun. Well, everybody, Florida.
And I wasn't about to rescue the bobcat. I said, you got up there, you can get down.
Well, there must be something amazing. I've never been, and I've heard people say it's a great place to live. So there must be so much great about it that you just don't worry about having an irrational fear of alligators or
It's a nice place to live. I like it.
yeah. Awesome. All right. So Richard, I want to jump in because there's so many things. First of all, I love talking to writers because I just love hearing about journeys and methodologies and stuff. And you and I have already talked, and I have just so many things that I just love it. So I want to start with just real quickly. You came from a very long and rich corporate background. So can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about? So you were in tech. Were you in like disaster recovery and security kind of stuff?
Well, when I started, computers were the size of a room, and they had 128K bytes of memory. And so you have more power in your digital watch, the cheap ones, the ones that don't have any smartphone, than that
Yeah.
computer had. It was running 128 users, fast. There were no AI. There was no super great languages. I started as an assembly language programmer, but my major was geology. I
Oh,
was
no
gonna I
kidding.
was gonna be a geologist, and then I took a computer class, the basic language, which was an early language back then, and there was only one spot left. I was late doing my schedule, and there was only one spot left, and that was a computer class called the basic language. So well, I don't even know what this is. Whatever, I could sleep through it.
Right.
Went there, was fascinated. The teach started became the person who did the computer lab. In fact, I broke into the computer, and as I'm breaking in, I'm like, yeah, I got in. And I look up, and there's a teacher right behind me
Oh, geez.
saying, "Congratulations, you just volunteered to be the security person."
Awesome.
So that went very well. And then after that, and one of my teachers started a company, and he hired me. And within a year, I was the VP of that company.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
So you were like, in your 20s, like early 20s, and you were VP of a company
22,
already?
22. I was a vice president
Oh my God.
consulting.
The
Yeah.
days of tech, I got into tech so I was going to college in the late 90s, and that's why I went into it. I had no computer experience. Now, of course, this is, computers weren't huge quite then yet, but I had taken a temporary job at a utility firm where my dad worked in IT. And so I was kind of like an admin to admins. I mean, I literally sat at a desk and took faxes off of a fax machine 3 times a day and delivered them and answered the phone a couple of times. But I loved the energy of the technology department. I
Yeah.
felt it was, if you work in tech, it tends to be, I think, relative to the greater world, more diverse, and people are just very science minded. And it was the bubble of like they were hiring anybody. Like if you had knew how to turn a computer on, you could probably have gotten hired at that point.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, what am I going to do? I was 10 years out of when I should have been going to college, and I just thought, why not do tech? And so I did. So
Hmm.
the weird reasons that we get into tech.
It worked. I made a living, and it was fun. And then after that company, I went to do another one, and I was the director of, the VP of consulting there. And at the same time, I decided I was going to work two jobs. Not a very bright decision. So I got an apartment up in Camarillo, California. My first job was in Long Beach. That's about 100 miles apart. So
Wow.
living in Camarillo, California, the job that I was doing for them was in Las Vegas. So every weekend I would drive up to Camarillo to my apartment. Well, I'd be at my apartment, then fly to Las Vegas, spend 2 days in Vegas, and then come back and do my job during the week here in Las Vegas, Long Beach. So I got very sleep deprived.
Well, typical of consultants, and I've worked with so many consultants, and for a long time, I think it's probably changed a little bit, maybe not, but that was the classic. The consultant flies in on Monday and flies out usually Thursday. And yes, I have photos of some of our big consultants, like Deloitte consultants, sleeping in meetings because they were so sleep deprived. So you worked at some point for Trader Joe's.
Yep. But let me finish with the kicker.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I worked those two jobs at the same time, and then my tax came up, and I realized I'm actually making less money working two jobs than I was making working
Oh,
one,
yeah,
because this was before Reaganomics and before he lowered the tax, changed the tax code, because there were like 7 brackets. There aren't now. And I quit one of the jobs, the one in Camarillo. Um, and that was an interesting lesson. You need to actually look at things before you do
sure.
them.
Yeah. Well, if you're working extra hard to put yourself into a higher tax bracket. That's awesome.
And then I went to work for Trader Joe's. I was hired directly as the computer operations director.
Did you get a discount at Trader Joe's for being an
We
employee?
we got 10%.
10%. Oh, cool. Did they bring in like Trader Joe's stuff for you sometimes? And did you get some good snacks or whatever organic something?
Well, there's a big kitchen in Trader Joe's, or there was when I was there. Don't know what it is now. And all of the vendors bring their stuff, and then they cook with it. Everything in Trader Joe's is taste tested by the staff to make sure that
Oh,
it tastes good. Yeah,
yeah.
and the ingredients and stuff are all made in concert with the vendors and stuff. So it is private label, but it's not just taking Dole bananas and making Trader Joe's bananas. It's tested.
Yeah.
It's everybody likes it. So, and every year one of the vendors would bring in on Christmas would bring in the Christmas desserts. So we would have a huge table, like 50 feet long, filled with dessert after dessert after dessert after dessert after dessert. We all got fat that day.
That's
I
my
mean, and these were fancy desserts. These were not the things you'd buy in a box.
that's my dream job. Did you ever taste something that was provided for whatever reason and you just thought, no.
Oh, I'm a picky eater. Most of the stuff I wouldn't even eat, but that's just me. I'm sure it was great for the people who like it. So,
um Whenever I have somebody who has a rich corporate experience, I always like to ask, um, what do you miss? Do you miss anything about it? And number two is, who's the biggest asshole in your corporate career? Because there's so many of them. I just,
in my whole corporate career, I would say I didn't have a boss who wasn't an asshole,
ooh,
basically, in one form
condolences.
or another. Yeah. I can't name a boss that I would call a leader
Mm.
of, not that they didn't do good. They didn't,
Well, you
they
can be successful, and
they were successful.
you can get productivity, and you can make things happen, and still be a,
Right.
a shitty leader. Yeah.
But this was way before when people were talking about servant leadership and all that kind of stuff. So the idea was, you come to work, you do your job. If we call you, you do you're not supposed to be on call, stuff like that. All of them, and that that's changed lately. I think most people
Has
wouldn't
it?
put up with it. Maybe. I mean,
Has it really?
at least on LinkedIn, they say it has.
Well, I think people are calling it out more, and hopefully I've been a part of that, having written a couple books, and probably even you yourself. But I will say your story is very familiar because so many people I talk to who are still in corporate or were in corporate say the same thing, that they have had really shitty bosses. And I will say I am happy to be the anomaly, that in 23 years, except for the last 6 months at my last job, I had fucking amazing bosses. Dave Clark, I'm talking to you, Mike Goggin, John, oh fuck, I'm brain farting. I'm sorry, John. I can't even think of your last name right now, but you know who you are. I want to say the company you work for, but I'm not going to. I don't know why. Do you ever have like a weird brain fart where you're like, why can I
No,
not remember this
never.
thing?
It never happens to me. No, my one manager. I have to make an exception to that. I have one leader. It was my very first leader. His name was Steve Davis, and he was pretty good, actually. He was young. He was in his 20s. Also, it was a new company. At the first one, he went on to become an executive VP at Disney. So he managed the entertainment unit at Disney, and pretty good guy, and we worked well together. Him, I really, really liked, and he was, I would say, he's probably too young to call a leader. He was a good manager
Yeah.
at the time. We weren't really focused on leadership. These companies were rather small. We focused on management.
And that's fine. You know what? You can be a good manager, and I think that's different than being a good leader. But we need good managers too. So
Yeah, yeah. And the companies might have had good leadership in areas, but typically the IT department is considered the somehow the the spoiled child of the company. Typically, IT is looked down on.
yeah,
People don't want to talk to IT. We bring it on ourselves when I was in IT, because IT people tend to be arrogant. Oh, AI is the next best thing. Whatever you're doing, stupid. That would be
did you
something.
reboot it first?
Did,
Come on,
did you reboot it? Oh, what did you do to the computer? We actually fired somebody for doing that once, to users, just
Ooh, ouch.
because the VP overheard him telling the employee that she was stupid, and she didn't.
Oh,
He was gone, same day, literally escorted out of the building. Um,
there's always that kind of in my world, and I saw this really. I think for the full 23 years, there was this engineer business side element, and then there was the true technical element. And there was always a little with a lot of people, not everybody. So don't come at me, coworkers, because I love y'all, most of you. But there was always sometimes a little bit of superiority. I think less so probably in the last 10 years, but certainly my first,
oh, no,
almost
no,
6
it's
years.
gotten worse. It's gotten
Is
worse.
it, so the engineers, there was always a little bit of like, well, I'm an engineer, so, and it was, and I know how things work. And then the tech people would be like, but I'm telling you that this is what's going to happen. And it was always just a little bit of a tech engineering competition. And
I learned my lesson the hard way. So I'd spent several months working with a team, putting together a proposal for a huge plan. It was multi-million dollar, and we were going to present it to the CEO. So my boss and his boss told me they already filled in the CEO that we were doing this, and we hired for free. They were doing it basically assuming they were going to get the business if it was approved, and all expectations were it was going to be approved. So some companies put in like 1,000 hours of free time to help us with this. Is a big project at the time. There was really no internet, so we had to put in all the cabling,
yeah,
telephone lines and T3s and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Walk into the CEO's office, all arrogant, all ready to go and stuff, nervous as heck because nobody wants to talk to the CEO, because he's the CEO. And start I start presenting the case, and first thing that CEO does is says, "You can leave the room, Richard." I said, "What do you mean I can leave the room?" I didn't say that, of course, but it's like, "What?" He said,
wow.
"You're not speaking my language. You can go."
What
Um,
what does that even mean?
I wasn't speaking business speak. I was
Oh,
speaking tech speak. And that's what I learned. So I left the room, and he reamed my boss and his his boss out. Oh my, they came out almost crying. Why are you working on this project? I didn't give you permission to do this. We don't need this. This is stupid. You guys are complete babbling idiots for doing this. I mean, it
God.
crippled the department, the department I was in for years later. That that response. I mean, it did. They they made a major screw up, and I'm glad. I think he kicked me out because first of all, I wasn't speaking his language, but second of all,
Yeah.
I wasn't responsible for these people being in the room and presenting this. So, and I heard all that just by the look of their faces, and I heard what happened secondhand, and people got fired, both at the vendors,
Yikes.
and I mean, it was bad.
We've all had one of those horrible
Oof.
projects. Well, hey, I want to jump into our comments real quick here because we've got some people checking in. We've got Gabrielle E showing in, just giving us a clap. Nice to see you.
Hi, Gabrielle.
Do you know Gabrielle? I don't think
I
I
do
knew.
not. I do not. But
Awesome. Well, we do now. Stella Scott is here with her water. One daily caffeine, yes. Soda, no. You know what? I try. I do. Believe me. If somebody can ever figure out a way to for me to quit caffeine easily, another show. And then Eileen Pizzi's here. She has her coffee. She's in New Jersey and she prefers water over soda. You know, I think water is better for you, but there is something about, and I know some people will relate to this. There's something about when you're really thirsty. having a good, especially if you drink soda, having your favorite soda. Because I know for me, sometimes water is just,
Well, I do carbonated water sometimes,
oh, that's even worse,
but
Richard. No,
no sugar, no sweetener, no nothing,
that's like
just bubbles.
licorice. No, that's like black licorice. I just, I'm sorry, we've already talked about black licorice on this show, so I don't want to get people started.
Used to be my favorite back when I could eat candy.
We've got Riley Pritchard here. Hi, Beth and Richard. I have a large coffee. By the way, John Young is the name. I could not think of John Young's last name, so I'm sorry. Mike Goggins here. He probably would have reminded me if I had not figured this out. But Mike Goggin, one of the great bosses that I just mentioned, who I'm so happy and proud to have worked with. So nice to see you, Mike. Always a pleasure out in Arizona, where it's probably getting pretty warm this time of year. Okay, Mike also corporate tech career in. I was going to ask you because you majored in, or you were talking about geology, and I was going to ask you if you had ever dabbled in GIS in your corporate career.
What's
With
GIS?
geospatial information systems.
No,
No,
we didn't actually have that back when I was
yeah,
in.
no worries. Okay.
I'm older, so you know.
Well, Stella says you're confirming why my gut told me don't go into corporate, even though I think it's a lot worse in the U.S. compared to Sweden. I'm going to say, Stella, and this is just me talking, and everybody take this with a grain of salt too. Well, actually, probably even more so because I've ranted. I had a podcast ranting about corporate. I've ranted many times about corporate. I still do. I've written a couple of ranty books, but it wasn't all bad. It was actually there was a lot of really good stuff about corporate, and there
You,
are, you know,
you asked me about the bad stuff. There was a lot of good stuff too.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, I was there I was in
yeah,
corporate for 33 years, and
right,
there was one of the lessons that I learned from being in corporate for 33 years after I left was don't be afraid. I was afraid of leaving because I got this information from various people that, oh, you can't make it on your own. It's harder to be a freelancer. You're going to fail. What about money? And then when I finally left, one of the reasons I left is I realized I had enough money to survive for several years.
yeah,
So let's just go do it. You can always go back, which turned out to be false because, ageism. But
yeah. Whole other
ageism
show.
exists.
Whole other show. Yep. Yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, I know lots of. Yeah, I mean, I know we want to go down that road because I've got so much that I want to talk to you about. But yeah, 100%. Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead. So you retired early. Can I ask you what was it that prompted you to decide this is time? It's time for me not to be in corporate tech anymore.
I'd been through a lot, both personal life and business life, and I realized it was time to change 100%, just change everything, pivot. So I moved to Florida I lived in California for my whole life. I was born there. And I said, okay, I'm going to move to Florida because California has become bonkers. Love the scenery, love a lot of the people, hate the government in
Well, and
California.
it's also the cost of living in California
Cost of
is
living,
compared to Florida.
taxes, the whole thing. We don't have income tax here in Florida. There's no
Yeah.
state income
Oh,
tax. Um, so I said, okay, I'm going to move to Florida. Florida's a little bit more, in my opinion, sane, although it has its insanities as well, like alligators in the back. But
yeah.
but um, and I'm going to basically make a whole new life and a whole new career. And what have I wanted to do my whole life since I was 17? And that's another story we might want to talk about. I've wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to learn about people and help people with my writing abilities. So I'm going to do that now. And after stumbling around a bit in a few positions, I finally started my own company and immediately got some big clients. And then after that, it's been basically, just continue and doing very well, making more
Wow.
money. I'm making more money than I was making at Trader Joe's, which was a lot. And
Yeah. So this is a company where you're writing books for people.
the Writing King is
Yeah.
intended. I used to do blogs and things like that. I don't do them anymore. I just do books. Um,
Yeah.
there's a big difference in clients between people who want blogs and
Yeah.
things and people who want books.
Well, especially nowadays, and we'll talk about that in a minute, the whole impact of AI. Do you remember, either for yourself or for someone else, the first book that you wrote?
Yes,
Because
that's
you've written a lot. I could say people say, well, of course you remember your first book, but Richard has written a lot of books. So
my first book I wrote was when I was 17 years old, and it's a special book. Um, I was 17. It was Christmas, and I was down with my family, and I was very introverted. And I looked over at my grandfather, and he was very introverted, and people avoided him. I asked, why are we avoiding grandfather? Because he's weird. He's curmudgeon-y. Nobody wants to talk to him. He's going to
Oh,
snap at you, blah, blah, blah. So being a 17-year-old, I basically said, F you, and went over there and talked to my grandfather.
oh,
The man was a World War II vet. He was a hero. He was he was in the Yangtze River Patrol, a cook on a ship, a boat called the I think it was called the Penyang on the Yangtze River. So I think it was later sunk by the Japanese, but he wasn't there. He's transferred to Corregidor. He was captured on Corregidor by the Japanese. Was in the Bataan Death March. 10,000 Americans and Filipinos were marched across this 100-mile peninsula. Half of them died, and then he was in the Japanese POW camp for 4 years. And I got to talk to him about it. And I was like, you know what? He can be as curmudgeon-y as he wants. He can be whatever he wants to be. He's earned the right, and I'm happy to have got that story. I wrote him a little book. It's since been lost, um,
oh,
and learned and learned all about him. And I was glad I did that. I respected him a lot. And before that, I didn't, because everybody said he's not a good guy. He was a great
yeah,
guy.
yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. Do you so when you got to the world of actually publishing books for the masses, do you remember when you
Yes.
got your very first printed book in your hand, and what was your experience like?
There are several moments of that. Um, Let me talk to you about a customer who got her very first copy of the
Sure.
book.
Yeah.
Okay, her name is Doris, and Doris came to me saying, I want to write a book. And I said, okay, fine. Let's meet at the Panera Bread. Oh, you're local. Okay. So we went and met at Panera Bread. Her whole family came, 8 people. And they were a very interesting family, and I liked them right away. But my first thought was, they're not going to be able to afford me. I was wrong. I forgot that retirees have money. And she said, yeah, I'll pay your price. I want you to do the book. I want you to take these. And she had boxes and boxes and boxes of handwritten notes that she'd taken
Oh, wow.
every morning when she woke up of her dreams,
Oh,
handwritten. So she wanted me to go through all of those boxes, which I told her sister that she could do the transcription, and she did some, but it was fine. So we got the gist of it, and write a novel based on that.
wow.
So I wrote
Like
a
so, a
novel.
fiction.
It's a young adult book,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and it's called Gators in the Soup. It's on Amazon, and it's about two magical gators who wander around this magical land, having magical adventures, and have magical battles and bad magical demons, all kinds of stuff. Wonderful book. Um, and when she got it in her hands, she told me, this feels almost as good as when I held my firstborn in my hands for the first time.
Oh, yeah. That is a true writer at heart. Even if even if you did the writing for her. Yeah. Everybody who I ask who's an author has a similar story.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the same. I would visualize as I was writing my first book. I would visualize imagining myself in my house, and the doorbell rings because sometimes the post or the US or the UPS dings the doorbell. So that I'm in my house, the package arrives, I go out, there's a box, I open the box, and the emotion floods. And it was exactly like that in real life when I got my first box. In fact, I filmed it, and it was horrible. I hadn't done hardly any videos at that time, and so it was a horrible. My voice is shaking, but it was just a true emotional moment when you
Yep.
finally when you work on something with your heart and soul so much. It's your story or your writing or both in some cases, and then you get this physical representation, even if it's the shittiest book in the world.
Yeah.
It's just like nothing else.
Yeah. I'm working on a new novel for me, not for a client, called Peacekeeper, that I've been working on for like 35 years.
Oh, wow.
And I'm in the
Okay.
third draft. It's almost done. I got a little more polishing to do. I just got the cover back from a professional cover artist, and it's like, you got it. He didn't read the book. I just sent him a description. It's like, wow,
Oh,
I need you to add. There's two women on the cover. I need you to add a jewel in her forehead and some tattoos on her arms, and you've got it 100%.
wow.
With a big space battle going on in the background. It's really cool. And
Well, can I ask you a little bit of about your methodology? So do you have others design your covers, or have you designed any of your covers?
I am not an artist.
Yeah,
My
that's fair.
my
Yeah,
dad was an artist. That's what he made a living at. But I am not, and I am recognizing that, and I use resources, all other people to do that. And this was a very good professional.
that's awesome. So when you ghostwrite for somebody, and there's no right or wrong answer, people out there, but when you ghostwrite for people, are you helping them with editing? Is there a third party editor, or is it here's your draft, you do with it what you will? Is your name on it? I mean, I'm so curious about the ghostwriting method.
Well, basically, I pick up the book from the idea. Usually, I don't generally work off their notes, and sometimes they come with manuscripts, and sometimes they come with reams of notes and boxes of paper. I do it from interviews, and I might skim those materials to see if there's anything good in them. But usually that's far more work than just doing an interview, and I get far better results from just talking to them. So then we go through the interview process. That takes a while because I am looking for their heart. I'm looking for their soul. I'm looking for. I do give it back, by the way, once I use it.
Thank goodness.
I and I'm looking to get that so that I can write the book from their point of view, or whatever point of view they want, and with their passion in it. So it's not just going to be a book that you got off AI or something stupid like that, or that you got from a ghostwriter who doesn't care. He or she just wants the money. You're going to get a book that shows your passion. From there, we write the book a little bit where I write a bit, send it to you for revisions, comes back to me, I revise it, and keep doing that through the whole thing. So by the end of the book, we got a pretty good draft that you're happy with. So we don't have to generally go through that whole revision process in nauseum, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, it's very personal for everybody, and I will just say there's no shame in this day and age. I know many people who go through and do all of their own editing. I always think it's good to have third party, and when you're ghostwriting, you certainly have feedback. But I also know that it's not cheap to
No.
if somebody is just out there and they have a dream of. I have a friend who published a first in a series of fiction novels and did it all himself. And is the book formatted and grammatically perfect? No, but
Well,
um,
I always tell my authors, the author's them, the writer's me. I always tell my authors to we're going to send it to an editor first, a professional editor. I've got some on tap; they're really good. Um, then it's going to come back from the editor, and then we're going to get the cover and the ISBN and all the other stuff, and then
right.
self-publish it. I help with as many of those as I can. So as part of the contract, I manage the process, so I can get you the editor and get you stuff. Now, if they're going to go traditional publishing, and 4 of my authors have, if one just finished, then that's going with the big publishing houses. Then you don't do the editing and stuff. You just send the draft, and they'll fix it all up. And you go through an agent. Hybrid publishing, you skip the agent and you just give them money, and they publish it for you. So they generally run very expensive if it's a good one. One way you can tell that you're not going to get the product you want is the price. If the price is low, just like if you did the low bid on building your dream house, you probably don't want to do that. It's your dream house, and your book's generally
Yeah.
your dream. You probably want to go with the mid-level bid, maybe the low high bid, whatever, because you're going to get a better product behind it. You're getting somebody who stands behind their work. Don't go with the low bid. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And that's an important thing. Price is a consideration, and people who have good prices, meaning reasonable prices, have confidence. And when that's how you can tell if you find a ghostwriter or any other professional, say some contractor's gonna bid your house. If they're bidding low, they don't have confidence because they don't think they can get the higher prices. You don't want them. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you're building, track homes or something.
Yeah, and I will just say from my personal experience. So I used a hybrid for my first book. I ended up republishing it, self-publishing it, which was easy because I had rights to all the stuff. They were very great about, and it was a great hand-holding experience. But they were great about letting me get out of my contract. But I will just say for anybody who's out there, if you're thinking, well, I can't write a book because I can't afford an editor, please don't let that stop you from writing your book. It is important to get professional help with your book, But I also know, and from personal experience, having just lost a year and a half ago a job where I was in a position where I could pay good money for editing and stuff, and now I'm not. I just want people to don't not write your book because you were worried about money. At least write it. At least get it out there, and
Well,
then
on that same line, don't not go to a ghostwriter because I don't think it's too
oh
expensive.
yeah,
I will work with payment plans.
yeah,
I will help you get the book. We'll come up with options for you. Um, there's also
yeah,
book coaching. I also do book coaching where you write the book and I help you write the book. Uh, that's a very affordable option. So don't let the money stop you, especially if it's your dream book or if you
yeah,
want it to be good. If it's your brand, you certainly don't want to let money stop. If you're a company, you can afford this.
yeah. Just
It's a business expense.
stop complaining and just do it.
It's a
Yeah,
business expense. Yeah, it's going to
yeah,
be expensive.
yeah,
It's not going
yeah,
to be cheap because you're buying quality.
yeah,
But do you want quality or do you want cheap? It's
yeah,
your brand or it's your dream book or whatever. It's going to be one of those two things, and you wouldn't be coming to a ghostwriter to talk to them if it wasn't one of those two things. It's your passion.
yeah.
So
Do you uh so if somebody comes to you and they have an idea, and I know it's going to vary based on many factors, but somebody comes with you, they have an idea. How long does it take you typically to go from start to finish, from we're having an initial conversation to delivery of your fully drafted and perhaps edited partially at least, or whatever product, for maybe a 150 page book?
150-page book is about 30,000 words, maybe 40,000 words. Those can take anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to write.
That's not long at all.
Maybe as long as seven. It's usually the revision pass that winds up taking more time. And
Oh, God bless you, because for me it's the opposite. It'll take me a year to write a book, a draft, because getting words on paper is my hardest part. And then once I get into editing and cleaning up and making things good, that's just like that.
well, the revision is before the editor, but after me. And I do the revision. I help with the
Okay,
revisions, and I
gotcha.
allow one pass in my contracts. So we revise it once. The idea is you read through the whole thing, you tell me all your comments, I revise it, I fix it, give it back to you, and then any more revisions go through the editor at that point.
Got
So
it.
it makes things nice and clean. I learned a long time ago, you don't want to get into the, can you revise this? Can you revise this? And can you revise this? Can you revise this? You get into revision hell is what I call it. It just, you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it just doesn't work very well. Both people start hate each other at the end of that.
Yeah.
Just do one
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah, that's not long at all. I just want to jump into the comments here, and we've got some folks weighing in here on all of this stuff. So Riley Pritchard says, exactly, Richard. Even though I've always dreamed of and have a passion for the creative realm, writing, illustrating, inventing, but went into healthcare, loved it, but no fire passion like I still do for creative writing. Yeah,
It's
writing
true.
is quite
It's,
a
it's true.
passion. I've been afraid to leave for the reasons you mentioned. I will just say we both have left corporate. I fairly recently, and I was afraid. The decision was made for me. And Riley, my opinion is prepare for it. As Richard said, he had the means to survive for a few years without anything. I prepared as well. I had less time, but I prepared and had been preparing. So I would say if you love it and you just don't love what you're doing, consider it. I'm just saying I'm so much happier now that I'm
Here's
doing. Yeah,
here's
go
the
ahead.
answer. Start a side gig.
Yeah. Yeah.
Start another job, basically another job, but it's your own, and do some blogs or whatever, your art or whatever your passion is as a side gig in addition to your general job. Do it on Fiverr, do it on uh,
Yeah.
I hate Reasley, do it on a different platform, and you'll make some you'll learn whether or not you can make it
Well,
before you leave.
and you'll be so much better prepared too. And I say the same thing about things like networking. People out there in the corporate world thinking, and probably you don't think this now, but maybe some of you still do think I'm good, I'm solid. I thought the same thing. I thought I'm going to work for another 10 years for this company, and that didn't happen. So prepare. I did side gigs on. I was writing. I wrote my two books that I have published now before I left corporate. So I was writing on the side. I had podcasts on the side. I was networking on the side. I was starting to uh, pull people into my network who were more in my dream area. So, and you learn so much from them, and then they can help you later and give you advice and just be a support network. So, I think your advice, Richard, is spot on. Just do it on the side.
Well, let me make an offer here. Anybody here who's listening who wants to chat about this stuff, get on my website. There's a place where you can schedule an appointment, schedule 30 minutes. We'll have a chat, and I'll be happy to give you some advice or something. Not without a sales pitch. Well,
Awesome.
there'll be a little sales pitch, but
Always we
you,
expected. Well,
you,
thank you. That's very nice.
yes, just feel free, and I'll be happy to go
Well,
through it
there you
with you.
go, Riley. Riley also says, thanks, Beth, for this interview and discussion. Enjoying listening to you both. Great gems. Thank you for that feedback. I so appreciate it. Stella says, I always get curious about the houses and planets when someone has an innate urge like that writing and how that was triggered when the pivot occurred. It's an entry. So Stella's an astrologer, so she's kind of speaking from an astrology. But I will say, I mean, Richard, you talked about in your youth, you wrote a book for your grandfather when you were in your just teens. Same here. I always written, but never really thought about a book until I was probably in my 30s, and then it took a while. It took another 15, 20 years to get something published. So
Yep.
it is a passion. Eileen says ghostwriting has to be. Now, Eileen, by the way, is a copy editor and proofreader. So ghostwriting has to be difficult. You have to write in a way that reflects the author. It has to sound like the author, and definitely beats the robotic results you would get from AI.
Hmm.
There's a place and a time for AI, and for me, it's not writing from someone's voice, but there are things that people do write with AI that are probably fine. Riley says, thanks for that info, Beth. Yes, sometimes having that, you have to have, sometimes have extra dollars, sometimes I don't. Yep. Well, that's the prepare part, right? And if you're going to write a book, that's just another thing to prepare for. Riley says, thanks to both for your insights and talking directly here on preparation. Side gig being recently what I've been debating. So great feedback. Yeah, that's awesome. If it's your passion, it won't seem like work.
And one thing you can remember is if you're going to write a book for your business, let's say you're starting a new business, that's a business expense, and you can deduct it from your income tax. And also, you can go out and get a business loan and have a book as part of that. You have to come up with a business plan for that. But part of your business plan should be, I'm writing a book. Put that in your dollars and go out and get that business loan that you would get to start your business.
Yeah.
So make it part of your plans.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, there's so much in the world of entrepreneurship that people just don't think about. Richard, I cannot. We are getting close to 45 minutes in, and we have not talked about belly dancing. So we cannot not because I've promoted this. So tell me the story because I know you and I when we talked
Okay.
on another call, you told me the story of how you got into what kind of prompted you to start getting into photography, and so let's talk a little bit about that journey of yours.
Okay. Um, my wife passed away 18 years ago, and I didn't like grief. I just tasted it, and I did not like it. She's sick for a long time, so I was feeling grief for a long time. So I decided, okay, I don't like grief. What can I do? And also, I'm shy. I want to fix that. So picked up the camera, started photographing national parks and things. Photographed all the national parks in the American Southwest, all the state parks, then the Renaissance fairs. So I went to Renaissance fair. The Renaissance people, they're like a family, like a circus
Oh,
family, and they made me
so
their
fun.
friends. Um, did some steampunk shows, nice hat. Did some gothic shows, stuff like that. One of the Renaissance fairs, I sat down, telephoto lens in the back row, center seat, photographing the dancers. I put them all on the internet. And one of the dancers approaches me. She's become one of my dearest friends. Marjani is her name. But I was a person who was not exposed to um, like a lot of tattoos and piercings and things. That was always looked down upon by my family, and I just wasn't exposed to it. I didn't know either way. But what I data in my head was, this is wrong and it's scary. So she's walking up to me. She scared the devil. She laughs when I tell this story. She scared the devil out of me. She's walking towards me. She sits down next to me. She puts her arm around me. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh,
She says, we love you, Richard. We love your photos. We want you to sit in the front row center. We don't like the photographers who sit in the back row because it's kind of, a little weird. And we want you to be in the front row center. And in fact, I'm inviting you to be part of our tribe. That's what they call the belly dance groups.
Oh,
And I want to invite to introduce you to all the other belly dancers in Southern California, which she did. And before you knew it, I was photographing every belly dance show in Southern California, like for a week. Just
wow.
in the evenings, going to these shows, dog tired. And then on the weekends, flying to Renaissance fairs all over the place. I was doing both,
Oh my God.
or WWE wrestling matches, or the circus. I got the VIP package at the circus a few times. You're in the center ring, by the way. You're actually in the ring when you buy the VIP package.
Oh, wow.
It's really cool. All this kind of stuff. And I wound up photographing 1,200 belly dance shows, did about 300 or 400 portfolio shoots, and did about 400 Renaissance fair shoots, all in 8 years. And every birthday of mine, all the dancers, I rented a room and all like a hall, and all the dancers came, like 100, 150, and they all danced for me. They put on a show because I didn't charge them for any of this. And so they all had this wonderful belly dance show where they're all dancing for me with their husbands there, all going, whatever. I've seen these before. They've seen all these dance performances a million times. They're just coming because free food. I always brought in a caterer who was one of the dancers, who had the ethnic food, Turkish food and stuff. So it was a great time. Got some really good shots of some of the big names, belly dance superstars, models, supermodel, a couple supermodels. One of my favorites was I was the photographer that was hired for let's see if I can get the name right, the world's first mermaid event, or whatever, beauty event, excuse me. So it was the first one, first and only, in Silverton, Las Vegas. And
So this is underwater, right? This mermaids are obviously,
huge pool,
yeah.
mermaids there, two supermodels. They're all dressed in mermaid suits. I got some
Clearly,
really good.
we all know that mermaids are water creatures, so there must be water for these mermaids.
A lot of them actually believe they are mermaids, literally. And I took lots of
Don't
photos.
shatter it for me, Richard. I believe that they're mermaids too. So
It was a lot of fun. Went on 4 belly dance cruises as the photographer, which is a fun story.
that
Really.
there is even a thing called a belly dancing cruise.
So I wanted to go, but it turns out when you're single, you have to pay for two spots anyway. You can't just buy a single. You're going to buy 2. So I said, okay, fine. Who can I take with me? So I asked one of the dancers. She said, "What do you want?" And I said, let's just go together. We'll be friends. So we were friends. Stayed in the same room. Went there. She was fine. We were fine. We had a good time. Photographed everybody. Didn't even get off the ship at Ensenada. Who cares? I'm in dancers. Then the next year we went, and the year after that, she had to get permission from her boyfriend. So can I do yada yada yada? The next year she married the boyfriend, and she told me she couldn't go because she was married now and it wouldn't be proper. So then she couldn't find somebody. So she went to her husband and she was complaining. Her husband would go, Richard, he's cool. So we went on a 4th time. Her name is Jana. She's one of my awesome friends. She's incredible. And she's gone to every party, everything I ever did. She's always been supportive. I mean, these
So
ladies.
are you still photographing the shows?
I haven't photographed since I moved to Florida. There really just
Okay.
isn't that kind of scene around here, at least nothing I've broken into.
Yeah.
But that was fun.
Opportunities, Florida. Just saying, Renaissance festivals are fun, and
Well, there's a few of those around here, but it's hot and humid in Florida.
That's true.
California is hot and dry. Difference. One of the more fun times was at Arizona Renaissance Fair in Tempe. Meet some of the dancers, Laura, a bunch of the others. They're a troupe out there, which is a belly dance group. They're dancing and they see that I'm always there. So I said, I'll do a photo shoot for you free, So we do a photo shoot. And they said, we want to be hanging from the trees. I said, okay, it's fine with me. So these dancers are literally hanging upside down in this tree in different positions. Dress falling down. They have stuff underneath. Dress falling down over their heads, looking, and it wasn't nearly as glamorous as in their mind, but it was fun. There were bugs in the tree. Not a lot, nothing
but
bad.
How fun! But what a fun,
ants.
And I love that you just, you go out there and you just have fun, and it doesn't matter. This is like what I mean. If you go to Amazon even or probably your website has them too, but if you just look at all of the books for Richard Lowe Jr., it's amazing the diversity. So you turn your belly dancing photos, some of them, into multiple
Four,
coloring books.
four, four belly dance coloring books. It was very popular with my belly dance friends, obviously, because they took real photos and had them traced to put in the books. I'm not an artist. One of my goals, it's a low urgency goal, is to take those 4 books and use AI to make them the tracings a little bit bolder and better. Same tracings, but just they
Yeah.
came out a little light. But that was fun. The belly dancers loved it. I'd already moved to Florida by then. The other coloring books I didn't do well, but those did because I had an audience. That's important for your book, by the way. If you're going to ghostwrite a book, the first thing we do is figure out who your audience is. And with the belly dancer books, I already knew who my audience was, so
Yeah.
that was fine. The other coloring books, I didn't have an audience, so they didn't sell well. Duh, go figure.
Well, but you live and you learn, and that's why I say, people just get out there and do it. What was I going to ask you? Oh gosh, what was it? Oh, I was going to address our audience out there. God, I'm having a brain fart today. I must have eaten like some processed food yesterday or something. Or
It's my great handsomeness that's
it
causing
is.
you to
I'm.
stumble. I
I'm
know.
actually. I'm just because we so mesh with our design colors here today.
That's true. That's
I'm
true.
losing
That's
track
true.
here. No. So for our audience, we are going to be wrapping up pretty soon. So if you have any final questions or comments, please throw them into the comments right now because there is a little bit of a delay. I want to make sure we get to them before we jump off here. I did want to ask you. Oh yeah. So you've written so many books for yourself and for others. Do you have a favorite?
Do I have a favorite?
Either that
Probably
you wrote or the topic or whatever.
my most successful was a ghostwritten book I wrote for a client, foreign client, and he wanted to get the attention of the CEO. That was his goal. So write this book, CEO will see it. It's a big company, it's Fortune 50. He was a VP, and I wrote it. The CEO wound up writing the forward, so mission accomplished. He got a promotion and a raise.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
He other things happened. We went out in libraries and all kinds of other things. And then he used the book as part of his prospectus for venture cap, and he got $30 million in venture cap
What?
from my book, which I didn't get paid anywhere near that much for.
Wow. Yeah. You
Oh,
should have had like a contractual clause of, by the way, if this book generates,
by the
yeah,
way,
if
to
only,
answer
right?
your earlier question, my name has never been on the cover
No.
of
Okay. So
ghostwritten
when you
books.
ghostwrite, you are not, is it, are you referenced in within? Is there somewhere in within that has your name in it?
Sometimes about a dozen books that they have an acknowledgement saying thank you to Richard for, usually book coaching or something like that.
Yeah.
They don't want to say I'm their ghostwriter, and I understand. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
So I'm happy, and I got a good projects. But my favorite book was probably my first book, because my first non-ghostwritten book, the first one I wrote, was it was called "Safe Computing is Like Safe Sex." If you don't practice, it doesn't help, or something like that. And it had a whole like 6 people buy a copy. I mean, it didn't sell. I didn't know the audience. I didn't know there were like 50,000 cybersecurity books out there. But I put my heart into it. It's got pictures. It's got everything. It's a really good book. Um, I like it a lot. People who read it do like it. It's got some good reviews, but it's not a favorite because of sales. It's a favorite because it was a good. I
Yeah. Well,
I
and
like cybersecurity.
and if it's your first, yeah. So I have one last question. So most authors and writers are also avid readers. What do you read? What do you just for pleasure?
Lord of the Rings. I've read like 50 times. Yeah. Um, some of the others, Dune. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and the movies are disappointing compared to the books, by the way.
Yeah. Well, which is
In
usually
Dune,
the case.
yeah, the new movies are great for Dune, but the books, wow, they cut some stuff out of the movies. Like,
Well, they always do. My all-time favorite book is The Stand by Stephen King. I love
oh,
just
the movie's crappy.
all of them. There's been like 3 series and they're all,
Yeah,
not just you just don't get the same, but
Isaac Asimov, Ursula Guin, I think that's how you
uh,
pronounce her name. Um,
the Earthsea trilogies.
the right, just good stuff like that. Game of Thrones. I have not cracked Game of Thrones yet, but I have them behind me, and I'm intending
Well,
to.
good luck with that.
Oh,
I've read them all, but Game of Thrones, I had to start reading the first book 3 times before I finally got to a point where I was like, "Oh, okay, this is," and then it was, "Yes, I'm sold." But
That series is the Eternal Champion series by Michael Moorcock. It's 40 novels written over his whole lifetime. That series is very expensive because it's way out of print, signed first editions, and
have you read the Wheel of Time series?
I have not.
Yeah. My husband and I are watching, or we just watched. The series is pretty good. I've not read the books, but I think I might want to now that I've read this series,
I've
which I
also
don't know.
I've also not read or watched the movies of Harry Potter.
What? Oh,
I know I'm going to hell.
I've read all the books, but I will say I don't think I would read them. I know people that are just, oh my God, the books are amazing, and they are, but I like the movies better.
But I do want to go to the Universal Harry Potter stuff. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Back to the comments here, just real quick. So Riley says, just want to say how much I enjoyed your interview and how much you covered from corporate headaches and experiences with tech and writing and ghostwriting do's and don'ts. Thank you, Riley. So much appreciate that. Eileen says, Lord of the Rings movie was greater, but the books were far better.
Well,
Movie was,
note that they changed the book. The books are a drama, and the movies is an adventure movie.
yeah,
So they had to change it because a drama would people would go, you know.
yeah.
So it's understandable. I just hate some of the plots they added.
Well, this is what a lot of people. So you are not the only person who I know who is a big, big, big Lord of the Rings. Jerry Gray talking to you. So I know some people who are just. And if you're like a huge, this is probably why I didn't enjoy the Stand, any of the Stand series, because I was such a big fan of the book. Read it so like you just read it so many times, and it's like 1,200 pages, and it just is never gonna cut it to the book. So, but that's okay. You know what? The books are as my husband and I often say, the books are the books, and the movies are the movies. So we
Yeah,
just try to
that's the way you
separate
got to
that.
take it. That's the way you got to take it.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody. So, Richard, before we wrap up, is there anything that you want our listeners to know? Anything that you have coming up? And of course, I will put all of your links and your info in the comments. But
Okay.
if you want to just let us know, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Go to thewritingking.com. That's thewritingking.com.
I think I have that up here,
You
right
should.
here. I
That's
think I
where
do.
everything about me is. I'm writing a new book, and on there you'll be able to find my schedule links. They're all over the place on the site. I'm writing a new book called Peacekeeper. Should be out in a few months, which is a
Awesome.
story of a Earth empire 800,000 years in the future that has no faster than light travel, but still has 20,000 colonies. So it's kind of interesting. And that's
Okay.
why the timeline's so long, and it's brutal. And
Mm,
the hero is a woman, and the villain is a woman, and they're both badasses.
I love it.
Uh, and I have asked women for their opinions on how to write women. So, because I'm not a woman, duh. And
Well, we appreciate that. Yeah.
so that's coming out soon. I've been working on that one for 35 years,
Wow.
and finally decided to finish it. It does need another coat of paint, though. I have to go through it.
That is a labor of love.
And
35 years.
two of my clients just published their books. One of them traditional, and they are in love with what they did.
Yay.
They got really good covers. They got the one that was traditional. He's selling gobs of copies. I mean, thousands and thousands. The other one's learning how to market. Surprise! You have to market your books,
Yeah.
and he's having fun with that too. He's pestering me with questions, which is fine.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Well, again, we'll put all of this information in the comments, and if there's anything else that you want to add in there once it's posted, please do so.
Okay.
Richard, thank you so much for being my guest on The Thirsty Professional. You are super fun to talk to. You've
Thank you.
got such a rich and diverse background and set of skills. I didn't even get to a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk, so we might have to pull you back here
Let's do
later.
a part two.
Yeah, we got to do a part
I'm
2.
free next week. No.
Yeah, well, I'll reach out offline with some open dates, but I just love that you're out there. I always love talking to former corporate people who have a passion, and even if they didn't have a shitty corporate experience, they just decided I'm going to go out there and live my best life, and you're doing that. So I love that. Thank you so much. All right, next week, my very, very, very special guest will be Darren Gerheen. So Darren, another Founders Network person. Darren has spent his entire career, over 30 years, as a graphic designer. He started off doing manual design. So like you, Richard, he was back in the, You probably did the punch cards. He was doing manual design by hand for machine diagrams. Now he's a digital designer. He's even using AI to help him with some of his work. He faced multiple redundancies, so we can relate to that, and then started his own design business in 2006. So we're going to explore Darren's journey to bring his almost 20-year entrepreneurial wisdom to all of you, the good, the bad, and the fucking ugly. I hope you'll join us for this fun conversation with Darren Gerheen. So look forward to that. If you're out there watching on LinkedIn, please connect if you're not already with myself and my awesome guest. If you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It's so much appreciated. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave it in the comments or DM one of us. And congratulate yourself for getting real about your career, your purpose, and your passion. So now, Miss Hattie Arbuckle, my lovely hat, Richard Lowe Jr., and I now bid you a fond farewell. Take it easy.